So my name is Casey Burkholder, and Jennifer Thompson and I recently edited a book with Routledge called Fieldnotes in Qualitative Education and Social Science Research, Approaches, Practices, and Ethical Considerations. Today, Jen and I are going to talk with Julie Rust, the Associate Head of Middle and Upper School, Teaching, Learning, and Innovation at St. Andrew's Episcopal School, and Sarah Altman about their thoughtful chapter, Vlogging as Sense-Making, Fostering Diffractive Practitioners. In their collaborative chapter, Julie and Sarah discuss the use of VoiceThread, a video platform, with pre-service teachers to reflect upon their field experiences.
Great. So first question, can you talk a little bit about how you take or make field notes?
So I think what our chapter really elucidates is that we are interested in thinking about field notes broadly. Oftentimes field notes are seen as owned by researchers, folks with terminal degrees that have been granted the privilege of their thoughts being considered field notes, right? But when we think about it, everyone from my 5-year-old to my mom takes a host of thinking and jottings throughout a day, right? And they take the form of pictures, and they take the form of text messages, and their ways of recording and being. And so Sarah and I were most interested in thinking about pre-service teachers as an ethnographer of sorts when they spend time in the field, particularly when they're new in the field, and trying to make sense of the incredible complexities that emerge in classroom spaces.
Mm-hmm. I had the privilege of being one of the pre-service teachers that I was looking at, so it was a fun little loop around for my thinking in that. But it's really nice to have my moment of elucidation about something that really mattered to my philosophy of education in this kind of temporal environment, to go ahead and take that snapshot, and it's unedited. It's usually a very informal vlog type thing. I took one in the practice room with tears streaming down my face. It's beautiful, and I love that I get to say that's where I've been, and that can inform where I'm going.
Excellent. So what does your chapter tell us about field notes?
I think it tells us that just as we keep rediscovering over and over again, that it's not ever in a vacuum. You can't take this one snapshot and say that is exactly what happened. We had folks that were chiming in from different parts of the classroom. In the instance where we were leading clubs together, there was an entirely different reaction to this is how the day went. And if you were to bring in principals, and if you were to bring in students themselves, then they would have an entirely different way of looking at it. And it's really helpful to be able to put those on a virtual space where we get to play around with meanings and asking questions of one another. And I think that that's what we're trying to say about Fieldnotes. It's not one thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that the two main sort of themes that emerged were that field notes can be very multimodal, right? And so they can consist of voice and audio and text and design, and so not just words in a notebook. But then the second thing that Sarah alluded to is that they're social practice, and that they often are co-constructed with a host of others, sometimes in a way that's made visible and sometimes in a way that's not made visible. But this particular platform we were looking at, VoiceThread, enabled you to really look across the social construction of an event via all of the little video and audio and text comments on the side of an initial vlog or field note post.
Great. And what do you think researchers need to know about field notes?
I think more than ever right now, as we find ourselves displaced from many of our spaces and places for research and for sense making, I think we are all finding ways to utilize multimodal field notes, right? And so even in this very moment, we are geographically dispersed, just like our pre-service teachers that posted voice threads from their dorm room or from their tennis court. And yet we are coming together around a common theme to reconstruct knowledge. And I think that this is happening in big ways and small ways. Sarah and I had no idea that this would be happening to this degree right now. And it was just so eerie. Sarah texted me and it was like, rereading this chapter is crazy because we had no idea, but now all of our meetings are taking place via essentially vlogs, right? Except, we're in a meeting together on a Zoom and our faces are in little squares and we're leaving comments, we're leaving trappings in school spaces. Kids are making little Flipgrid videos, making sense of their own thoughts. There's documentation of home spaces in ways that have never happened before. And so I think really attending to the many, many forms that field notes take, and then attending to the fact that they are socially contextualized and made alive through that dance. And it's really an interaction, right? And we do draw on Barad's notion of sort of that materiality of these field notes are composed of materials as well as technologies, as well as humans and emotions, and this constant entanglement or swirl of all of them at once. And so I think it's a really rich time to be thinking about these themes, and it's a really relevant time.
Yeah, it's helpful for me to start thinking in terms of every small task that I do when I'm trying to make sense of something. If I'm just writing down something really quickly on a Post-it note, if I make a crazy list that says things to do to keep me from losing my mind, things that I would never publish out there, but it's really helpful for me to think that all of that is still work. There's not a set aside space to do research or do thinking. It doesn't have to happen in this little box. It can just get tangled right up in my experience, and that gets to make it less stressful and more lovely.